Adam, when you're doing stuff behind the scenes, do we now get to see that? Or
Yeah, this shows you everything that's on our primary screen, so.
not up
So
here?
we'll make sure, yeah, if it's not connected, it will still show you what we're doing. So we'll make sure and never type "we hate Lincoln" or something like that, so.
This is just so nice. I can put my glasses on and now see it so clearly. The Planning Commission loved it too. They got to try it first.
In my office a while back, I'd go to screen. Everybody was going nuts. But now they're like,
Yes.
and they should be that. 'Cause when you put a blueprint on that,
Impossible. You're zooming from the get-go.
Have our recording ready to go? Do we have our recording ready to go? Yes, fun. All right, we're going to go ahead and begin this evening. Welcome everybody here to our Lindon City Council meeting this June 17th, 2024, here in the Lindon City Chambers. I will be conducting here, Carolyn Lundberg. Appreciate our council here. We have one more council member, Jake Hoyt, who will be here shortly. And we always like to begin first with an invocation, which will be offered by our council member, Mr. Van Broderick, and then we'll follow by the pledge. And we have the honor of Mr. James Westwater, PhD, who will lead us in the pledge tonight. Thank you.
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the many blessings that Thou hast given us. We're grateful for this beautiful area of the earth that we have to live in. We're grateful for the good residents of Lindon, for the contributions that they make in looking out for each other. And we pray for our citizens that they will be blessed and protected and successful in the things that they're called upon to do. We're grateful for this free country that we live in and pray for the leaders of our nation that Thou would guide and direct them. We are grateful for our Lindon staff and personnel and those that work here. Please bless them. We pray for our first responders. Keep them safe as they provide much needed service to our community. We invite Thy Spirit to be with us here this evening as we discuss things, that where our minds can be clear, that we can discuss things thoroughly and have a good understanding, and that good decisions can be made. And we offer this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so very much. So we'll first have our roll call here, and I'll start on my left and proceed from there.
Lincoln Jacobs present.
Cole Hooley present.
Van Broderick present.
Carolyn Lundberg present.
Steve Stewart, present.
All right, and as I mentioned, Councilmember Hoyt will be here shortly, and be noted once he arrives. And then we first have in our session tonight, so we have these at the front door. If any of you want to follow along our agenda for the evening, those are available. We will first have a presentation by the Utah Valley Earth Forum, and we are very honored to be presented with an Earth Stewardship Award this evening. All right. And if you could go ahead and take a seat and speak in the microphone, it should have green lights on, and state your name for the record, which...
Hello, I'm James Westwater, Chair of the Utah Valley Earth Forum. I want to say what a pleasure it is to be here. You all are so friendly, open, and kind. I very much appreciate that. That speaks very well for your city. And pardon me if I read a little spiel here. For 11 years, and pardon me, my voice is cracking, I'm getting old. For 11 years, the Utah Valley Earth Forum, the UVEF, has asked cities and towns in the valley to please tell us what they are doing to help move the valley forward in the effort to expand sustainability, to help our health and the air, water, and land on which we and all life depend. Each year, we present the results of the survey at survey.uvef.org. That's survey.uvef.org. We use the results to help encourage communities to improve their sustainability and to identify those communities that stand out for their exemplary work and their helpful efforts. With our last survey, we are very pleased to announce that Lindon City joins Lehigh, Provo, and Orem as having earned the Earth Stewardship Award for their outstanding efforts. Congratulations. Then now I would like to present you all with the award. If you would be kind enough to step out here in front of the railing, we can take a picture of me presenting the award to the mayor on behalf of the city. And I think we had asked for someone to take a photograph.
We're all set, Jim.
Oh, you are. Three photos, that's great. Lights, camera. It says Earth Stewardship Award presented to Lindon City in recognition of exemplary efforts to help the Earth's environment, which we all share, achieving improvements in environmental policy and advocacy, alternative transportation, smart growth, water conservation, wildlife habitat, and more.
Give this to our city administrator so we can display that. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for that acknowledgement. We have wonderful staff and community, and it's always a great thing to be good stewards and wise stewards and make those efforts, and we appreciate the acknowledgement. Thank you for visiting us. All right, we now have a presentation regarding our Utopia Network update from Mr. Timmerman. Hello, Nicole. Nice to see you as well. Are you joining? You're just moral support. Okay. Sounds. Come on up, Roger. We'll grill him. If we get too tough, then you'll come up and give him a massage on the shoulders. Okay. All right. Hello, Roger.
Hello, thanks for having us. It's been a little bit since I was here last. Oh, you're gonna let me drive, all right.
And I have to say, this is so cool. We finally don't have to crane our necks. Look up there, we have.
Got little displays up there.
We have our
okay.
displays right here in front of us, so.
Okay, anyways, it's been a little while since I was here last. We like to get out and just kind of provide an update on things. Utopia has an interesting history. It's had some challenging years, it's had some good years. Fortunately, the recent years have been very good, so we like to come out and share the good news. Let me give you a little bit of a history lesson. It's usually good if there's some turnover in council or even for guests to kind of give you a little bit of a very short, brief history lesson. So anyways, originally there were 11 cities that created Utopia back in 2002.
And we're one of them.
You're one of them, one of the originals. So now that was in 2002. The cities got to the point of bonding for projects collectively in 2004, and it didn't go so well. Since that time, there was many years where we were just really trying to deal with those original cities to get a plan forward, and we got to a good place. And since then, we've had a lot of new cities join in different ways. So there's a lot of different partnerships. So we're now up to 23 citywide projects and fiber in about 70 cities. I'll tell you why. I mean, it's good that that's happening, by the way. From a timeline perspective, these aren't accidental colors. You know, we got red years. It represents the difficult years. During those years, we had a lot of debt, and the cities were just having to pay that debt. And then we had operating expenses, and the cities were just having to pay those operating expenses. Like, the revenues were not good.
Not break even.
Not even close.
Yeah.
So it was really bad. And in 2008, 2009, the cities really had a tough decision to make. Do we just cut our losses and walk away, or do we try to fix this thing? It was at that time that Utopia was just a few people, and really everything was outsourced to a company called Dynamic City. And they came in and said, all right, we've got to restructure this. They became a company called Packet Front. They basically fired them, decided to in-house things, look at everything we could to fix things, and do some projects and see if we could be successful with them. So when we did that, it was a little tricky because the credit of one of the cities was not so hot, and it would have been difficult to get bonds to move forward without it being a problem. So to have a different group of cities, we had to create a new entity called UIA, which is basically Utopia Phase 2. So you have Utopia, and you'll see we have different financial reports, different board members, but it generally represents the same cities with few exceptions. But that's kind of acting as a financing entity for the growth of Utopia. UIA was created. It's done a whole lot more than Utopia ever did. It has more debt, but the benefit is that all of that debt is being paid for from revenues and then some. So it's profitable. Its growth is helping both entities be better and better every year. I'll show you how that means. Just from a timeline perspective, you can see it was created kind of 2009. And then with UIA, we're actually able to finish this. Now, you guys were finished under Utopia. You were the first city built. But at that time, you had huge cities like West Valley City that had almost nothing in their cities, and many cities. And so you guys at least got the benefit of the service, but we had a lot of cities that were paying and didn't even have fiber in their city. So it was really, really dire. It was still dire here. It was more dire there.
We had
Nicole,
the benefit of our US funding because we were
Yes,
a
you were one of their-
rural, we got some federal rural funds. to
Well,
build up some
which
of
was
our-
good and bad. We got money for rural cities. We went and spent that money, and then the federal government canceled it. So we had spent the money and didn't have the
Get
money to
full
pay for it.
reimbursement, yeah.
But you got your stuff built at least.
Jeez.
But that nearly killed Utopia. We sued the federal government, settled for $11 million, which wasn't enough. It should have been more, but it was something. But anyways, that money helped, but it was that RUS situation really did harm Utopia. But it did get your city built. So anyways, we did a bunch of different builds, and those little builds were profitable. We said, look, we can at least finance a build, get customers, and it'll pay for itself. We can finally get this thing built out. There were some other plans that kind of came and went. You may have heard the name Macquarie. They tried to do that deal. It was very good that didn't happen. I quit and left Utopia over that deal. When I came back, I said the only reason I would come back is if the very first thing I do is get to cancel that. It's snowing in here.
I know, it's like, jeez.
I don't know if that's just wind blowing through the system or what. So
Wow.
it's very windy out there.
Your prayer was, we might really need that prayer today.
So anyways, there have been some distractions along the road, but we kind of got back on
We're
track.
getting dialed in. That's the thing that's great. Yeah.
Got it dialed in, and we were able to issue bonds collectively with UIA. In fact, it was so successful that we were able to do bonds without coming back to the cities and saying, hey, you need to pledge some revenue or pledge some money. We were able to go to the bond market and actually secure funding without any sort of city guarantee or risk to the taxpayers, right? So we are able to finance and build the rest of the project. All the cities, the original cities, have been completed. And our take rate continues to grow in every single city. We showed that things could go well, and we had a bunch of other cities say, hey, how do we participate in that? We said, well, we need to find some model here that's mutually beneficial, right? They get to come in at a late time and avoid a lot of the risk and the struggles and costs that we had. But there's also, you know, we shouldn't do that for free. We're not a charity. And so there's kind of a hybrid there where they benefit from piggybacking off our system, and we get revenue off of those systems. And so that has enabled us to dramatically grow our revenues and customer base. Back when we were talking that Macquarie thing, we had probably about 13 to 14,000 subscribers. We're up over 65,000 subscribers now, for some context. So things have changed quite a bit. And a lot of these cities that have come on here in the recent years are, I mean, you probably heard of some of them. You have some neighbor cities here, like Pleasant Grove and Cedar Hills, that have come on. So we've built out those cities, and they're going very well. A couple accomplishments of Utopia. We're the largest open access network in the country. We have the fastest speeds, 10 gig to homes, if you want it. We actually just lowered the price for that. We are the most competitive because we have 15 providers. We've actually upped that to 18. We have been winning more school connections than anyone else in the state. So we've been growing massively with the school system and benefiting our schools. I mean, we do talk a lot about the home service. A lot of people think of us as that, but the businesses benefit, the schools benefit, the state of Utah uses us now, the counties use us, like almost everybody out there. Wireless companies that don't even really like that we exist, they still use us and we get their money. So, you know, we will provide connectivity on an open and neutral basis to any company that we can benefit from. We provide more air quality sensors than anyone. If you go to purpleair.com or go to the KSL weather stuff, you'll see all these air quality sensors all over the state. We provide more of those than anyone else. We don't do all of them, but we every time we install a hut or cabinet or something, we just automatically put one of those in there. So we provide a lot of really good data for people. We do a lot of cool smart city solutions. I was going to show you guys this wildfire detection camera that's in Orem that scans over our bench areas up here 24/7, but the camera's not working right now. And I was like, oh, I wanted to like focus on this fire that's over here a few blocks away, but unfortunately it's not working right now, but we'll get it fixed. But we've been doing really cool projects like that, both to benefit the cities and also they're kind of research projects. We've had, say, free labor from BYU and other student groups that have used these as capstone projects to develop software and systems that we've kind of helped them, but at the same time got the benefit to deploy things in our cities for smart cities. Net Promoter Scores, a customer service metric, we're very high on that. Google rating, we're very high with their ratings at 4.5 stars. I think we're at 4.6 stars now. It's actually higher than Google Fiber, just for comparison. We love using their own metric against them. It's kind of fun. So anyways, people really like the service. I mean, we take a lot of pride in that. It's very reliable, it's very fast, and it gives you choice and competition. And the model is kind of, we put the fiber in and all these different companies can compete on that. It's a superior fiber architecture even compared to other fiber systems. Other fiber systems are shared, so we're the only system, I think Spanish Fork does it this way too, but like Google and CenturyLink and all those use a shared fiber system. So it's just like cable where your whole neighborhood comes back to one fiber connection. In Comcast's case, it's coax, but it all comes back to one fiber connection. On ours, every home has its own fiber connection versus one connection that's shared among hundreds or however many homes. So it doesn't slow down at 10 p.m. Other fiber systems do. So it is a different system that's better. A couple future things, updates. You know, people are like, hey, you guys have been doing this for over 20 years. Is this thing getting old and dilapidated or anything? It's like, no. Fiber that was put in the ground very first in Lindon and Orem, or their first areas, is still good and probably still good for another 40 years or more. And we're deploying even faster speeds on that fiber, and it works flawlessly. And so
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was one of the arguments to try to do the Macquarie deal was, oh, this is aging infrastructure, the mirrors or something, we're gonna have to be replaced, and it was gonna cost a lot, but you're saying,
there's a lot of misleading information in that whole deal.
okay, good.
No,
Avoided.
glass is good. It'll be good for a very long time.
Okay.
We really don't see the force, like when it will go bad. I mean, glass doesn't deteriorate like copper and other infrastructure. So it's like, does it last forever? It's like, well, it can kind of get a little bit brittle over 30 or 40 years, but you don't really move it. It just goes in a conduit, and let's just say that for some reason that cable needs to be replaced. Well, the conduit's there, so you just yank it out, put a new cable in, and that's actually really cheap. The biggest portion of value in the whole system itself is actually the conduit that's in the ground and available for that cable. But we don't think we're going to need to replace those cables anytime soon, and not soon. So anyways, we have a new 2.5 gig tier and a 5 gig tier that's in development. We've already had 10 gig, but we're putting those 2.5 gig tier in a very affordable range, as opposed to it being this like very premium option. And the 10 gig just came down. It's our premium option. It's like $150, but we actually have a lot of people signed up for it. A lot of people's companies will reimburse them for up to $200 or something for internet, and they're like, all right, I want the best thing. So we're happy to support them with that, and see more and more people signing up for that. But most people are picking gigabit and 2.5 gig right now, even though we have lower cost 250 meg still.
Just bragging rights, even though they can't use it all.
Yeah.
Oh, they can use it. Some people can. So I mean, it's amazing when you think about it. When you with how many computers and phones and all, like the
Streaming
updates
all
that
the
you
time,
run, it's
yeah.
like, oh, here's a new version of iOS, and it's like, how many Apple devices do you have in your house that have to download, gigabytes of stuff? And instead of just waiting all day long, you can just zip those on your devices quickly and run your updates. And so you don't really use more, but you use it quicker. You download those games, or you run your updates, and all those things happen very quickly instead of taking hours. So there is a difference. And obviously there's lots of cool future stuff coming down with like virtual reality and AI. Like we just see demand for fiber growing and growing and growing. I made the comment earlier, but I think it's an important one that we continue to see take rate, like more and more people switch to Utopia over everything else, right? So we have this, however many customers we have in your city, and we keep seeing new wireless technologies and new upgrades to cable for DOCSIS 4 or whatever it may be, and all these things, satellite from Starlink, and it's like none of them are keeping pace. We are continuing to take customers from every other technology as demand continues to grow, and every other technology is not able to keep up with that demand. And we're priced competitively. Kind of covered some of those talking points there. There's not much left here. So just a quick draft showing our subscriber growth. You can see that's gone up very aggressively. We expect that to continue. Obviously, customers equals revenues, and revenues are a good thing. This is by city. You can see those are also growing. When we finish the city, it kind of flattens out, but none of them ever really stopped. So we continue to grow in every single city. This is specific to Lindon, so we continue to grow even here. You guys were always our #1 highest take rate, and unfortunately, you're not our #1 anymore. I think you're number 3.
It's like a decimal point.
It's a good competition, though. We like it. The revenues are collective, so when other cities do well, that's good for all of us. So it's a collective celebration. And then this is UIA specific. So this kind of shows we issue a bond, and that's obviously an obligation that we have. And then we have revenue that grows, and our revenue's grown much faster than our debt obligations. And so what that does is makes a lot more cash available to us. Meanwhile, we're paying down principal and interest on bonds. And so we're having to issue debt at a slower pace while also increasing the amount of money we're paying on the original bonds. And I'll show you what that obligation looks like here in a second. And this is combined Utopia and UIA. You can see most of the revenue is at UIA, but some of the structure, like on some of these deals, it falls into the Utopia category. So the Bountiful Partnership, They bonded, there was no debt for us with that project, so that falls into a Utopia partnership. If we're issuing the debt with a city guarantee, then that's a UIA thing. UIA is the one that issues debt. So some of these partnerships land in a Utopia partnership, some of them land as a UIA partnership. Either way, it's good for us, so. This is all of the bonds that have been done. Some of them are off the list because they were refinanced, but this kind of represents every bond. All of them are either brand new and doing well, or they are in a state of covering themselves, where all of the expenses are being paid from system revenues, other than that one, that yellow one. That is that original 2004 to 2008 phase. The nice thing is that every year we pay more of it. So we hate that the city has to pay anything for it, but we're making progress every year to pay more and more of it. And right now we're at about 27% is what we're paying of the debt obligations, and every year we budget a higher amount to decrease what you're paying and increase what we pay. Since we've recently finished the build out of all the Utopia cities, we don't anticipate issuing much more debt that we would be on the hook for, but if we can continue to grow our revenues, then that year over year amount that we pay should grow dramatically. And that's what our job is to do that. Like, we work for you. And that's our, first it was like our priority one was get this thing built out and provide the best service to our residents and businesses. That's done. Now our priority is minimize the debt and expense to the cities. And then just to the specifics of this. So this is the pledge payments on that phase of the debt. You can see you're at 3.1% of it. That comes out to $491,000 a year that you pay on those original bonds. That amount goes up every year by 2%, so you can see how that goes up. But what we have been doing at Utopia is increasing the amount that we're paying so that you don't see an increase in your payments. And so in 2023, your fiscal year, we reimbursed you $125,000 of that. And then 2024, we've budgeted $135,000, and then 2025 we're budgeted higher, and we'll continue to do that, and actually want to accelerate that. So, good things are happening. Maybe not as fast as you'd like to, but it's actually really good progress considering where we've been in the past. I think there were many years where it was like, there's no hope. I hate to say that, but I mean, that was,
that's how it felt.
if you've been around, it did feel that way. But things are going really well, and we're just starting with getting customers in many of these cities like West Haven and Bountiful. Like, there's a lot of revenue growth to be had that will come in and contribute to the offsetting of these old debts. Meanwhile, we're paying a lot of them off without any cost. I mean, this is an asset that will forever be owned by the cities, and will provide benefit to the community. So it's a good thing to have. I mean, I would argue that it's worth paying for. I mean, there's a lot of public services that we provide as cities that they're worth putting money into. Our roads they don't pay for themselves. We don't charge tolls on them. Fiber broadband is a lot like that. It provides a great benefit to our community. It's worth the money that it's cost, I believe. But we're trying our darndest to make it cost as little as possible and eventually pay for itself. So anyways, any questions that you guys have on it?
How much time is left on that bond for Lindon City?
It was refinanced for 33 years in 2008. So was that like, do the math in my head, like 20 years left or something?
20, 30.
Or that's off.
That's 16 years.
16 years left?
Yeah, 17 years.
Okay.
Roger, one
about
quick question. Appreciate the progress.
And then I didn't properly introduce Nicole. She's amazing, but she was the assistant city manager for West Valley City, and
Very
she's
cool.
our general counsel and a lot of things. And I don't know, some of you may have worked with her in the past. She's done a lot with Utah League of Cities and Towns, but I want
Gives
to make sure
awesome presentations at our league conferences.
I should have her do this presentation instead of me. But she's phenomenal. So if you have really hard questions, I'm just gonna make her answer.
Okay, here's the really hard question. I want your biased opinion on, there was one point where there was a potential competitor coming in back in the day when someone was looking at buying the network. Anyways, long story short, is fiber still the best of the best? Or are there any things on the horizon where you say, hey, a citywide Wi-Fi could be, I remember hearing that probably 6-7 years ago, that the potential for a citywide Wi-Fi was the future. I recognize that you are, executive director of Utopia, and so probably the answer is yes, but, it's not a industry that I'm heavily involved in, and so just love your opinion on fiber in general and your Reader's Digest version of it.
Yeah, so the issue with any wireless technology is that it's shared. And so what happens is people use more and more bandwidth. The sharing becomes your bottleneck. And so then you have to share less. And so to have citywide Wi-Fi, you have to have citywide fiber, like for it to work properly. So every citywide Wi-Fi project has failed because they start trying to shoot wireless to wireless to wireless, and it just gets bottlenecked along the path. And to solve that problem, that they have to build fiber deeper to the network, and you get so deep that eventually your
They have like
cost just
fiber
as much as a
nodes
fiber
that
network.
do a little area and a fiber node to this area, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the
That's
problem
pretty
that
frequent.
Comcast has, is they're like trying to keep up with cable, and what they're having to do is build fiber deeper and deeper, closer and closer to the customer, and they've spent as much as they would have to just build a fiber network by now, but they're still not there, and it's still shared and isn't as reliable as a true fiber to the home network. But wireless has the same problem. Wi-Fi is great, but it's great for a couple hundred feet, and
And it can't punch through trees sometimes, and it can have some obstacles.
yeah. I mean, I have some history. I've worked with Vivint Wireless as the vice president of engineering for a few years during that Macquarie period when I left. And I was in the thick of it, right? We got 20,000 customers across several cities all over the place, and we had every single one of those problems. We had oversubscription, we had trees, we had weather. I mean, today would be an absolute nightmare for every wireless provider out there, because if they're doing fixed wireless, where it's actual like line of sight type of stuff, they'll be like, oh crud, we just had 1,000 antennas get out of alignment, and then it's sending people out for several days to go realign all these antennas, and that's just what they deal with. I mean, that's how you work as a wireless operator. But, I'm sitting here watching this, like, this is one of the worst windstorms we've had in a long time. We have any outages? Knock on wood. We can. I mean, poles can fall or things can happen, but it's the most reliable infrastructure out there compared to everything else.
It's interesting, in the next presentation that I'm giving to the council was something that was presented to MAG, Mountain Land Association of Governments. I'm just sharing. It's a survey on transportation, but in there they collected data on one of the pages I'll be showing you all on what is the primary residential internet service technology. And so this survey said that about 48% is cable and 33.5% is fiber optic right now in that captured audience. So you're gaining on cable. You're not quite the primary delivery system, but
Yeah, where it's available, it's very dominant, right?
Yes.
Like, because you say, well, if we're at 60% take rate, then that means everybody else is splitting that 40% across, T-Mobile home internet, Verizon home internet, and cable, and Starlink, and all the other things available, and still see people on CenturyLink for some reason, or DSL, but it's those are all diminishing, and fiber
as you get the
dominates.
infrastructure in,
Yeah, I mean, if we had fiber availability throughout the state, that number would be dramatically higher. Like anywhere we have it deployed, it's very popular.
Awesome.
I'm grateful that Utopia got going. I know there was a lot of controversy in those early days, and the expenses were
growing
the
pains.
city's growing pains. Yeah, good friend with Bruce Carpenter, and I remember him talking about those along the way. But I had a home web server for years back in those days, and just couldn't really get anything decent, and nobody would pay attention to us. We were a small city and just not very big. When Utopia rolled out, suddenly everybody else came running. And, so there was a great benefit in that I don't know how you capture that, but it was very valuable.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for Comcast customers because they upgrade, right?
Exactly.
There's a competitive response.
Exactly what happened.
And a whole bunch of people leave their network, which makes it less congested. But we still provide a better service and a better value. It's a better price. We don't stick you with termination fees and surprise you every 6 months with a rate change and all that. I mean, there's a lot of things that we do. We're owned by the community, so we treat it very differently, and I think people respect that, and we don't lose customers. I mean, we're still surprised we don't have more, but once someone is on it, our churn rate is extremely low.
The help you give us in paying off that bond is greatly appreciated. Keep it up.
Again, that's our top priority. We're working every day to grow our revenues and decrease the amount the cities are paying on the old bonds.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming and touching base again. It's great to have a touch point every so often. Thank you very much. All right, council, I'm just going to go through this really quick, just to share with you. You can look at this later at your own leisure, but this was like I mentioned, the Utah Moves Transportation Survey that I was able to see at the last couple of MAG meetings ago, so I just want to share this with you. Actually, it looks like we need Adam to, you've got it in your packet, but for those that might be in the room or watching online, they'll want to follow along the slides. So let Adam get back to his chair and do the,
Entertain us since he came in late.
any dad jokes for Father's Day?
The
Dad
wind-
jokes, good dad jokes.
I did go sandbag my trampoline. It had moved 5 feet, which makes me very nervous. And
Oh, dear.
so, no, but I was tied up at work. So.
I feel really bad. We were supposed to have the senior luau party going on right now. I'm sure they were completely blown out.
That's right.
Yes. So anyway, don't think the fire dancers are going to be doing their fire dance tonight. I got a notification that there's a fire in the foothills a little bit north of us.
Yeah, both our sister cities
Yeah,
have a fire
and in
going on right
Orem,
now.
so it's a little scary. Okay, we got this teed up. Okay, so I'm just going to go through this really quick. You can kind of dive into it later. But this is just a survey trying to collect day-to-day travel, what the typical resident does in our region. And so they were trying to get people of all different ages and income levels, education, and they're trying to collect how are they traveling, how many trips, and whatnot, and what are they traveling for. So the survey was conducted, so this is a couple slides into it, Adam, if you want to keep moving. Right here, they just invited people to participate with a little gift card, and then people would allow things to be tracked with their phone, or they would just report in. So the data is, again, used to update and figure out the different travel models, you know, the state of Utah, and then we have our local area government entities that are always trying to master plan travel for the next 50 years and anticipate the growth and the habits and what we might need for multimodal options. And they don't do these very often. The first two, there was like a 19-year difference in time, and then this last one, it's been, looks like, 11 years. So this is the survey participation of households, a little over 25,000 people, how many total trips, the different area, you can see that map there. And then they have a final report PDF that you can, has a summary. But going on to the next screen here, they did find that the typical daily trip rates did increase generally for people here since that last survey. Here's the different areas that they saw the change, 11% to 13%, people making more trips in their households. The next screen for non-car travel modes, they found that people with a little bit lower income households and also younger age are more likely to use something other than a car. And so you can see they're walking, transit, bike. You can see those percentages. The next screen is how much transit use is happening 2 or more days a week. And again, by household income. So it kind of ties that demographic. Obviously, you can kind of see how that correlates. And then the telecommuting for employed workers, you can see never in the green, and then how many days per week. Some of them are telecommuting. So you can see definitely one of the things we've seen is a little bit more work from home is happening. On the next screen, they show the telecommuting frequency in relation to your educational attainment. So if you don't have a high school, less than high school education, you are more likely to never have a telecommuting and so forth. You can kind of see those different categories. And then this is what I was mentioning to Roger, the residential internet service. They also had applicants share what they were using for their internet, which is interesting, which goes into how they're using their online services. So you can see, I think probably the greatest increase, I would imagine, why have increased trips is the packages being delivered to our homes now. So you can kind of see that. And then here were some of the factors that people were asked. What would encourage you to use more transit to travel to work? And so you can see all those reasons. Have it stop closer to my home, more frequent service, faster arrival, lower cost. Anyway, reliability, you can see all those reasons. And what would encourage you to bike to work? So you can see all those reasons there. And then WFRC, so these are the different areas. So the WFRC is like Salt Lake City up into Davis County. Mountain Land Association of Governments, that's our region. There on that, oh, back up. MAG is our region, and that's what those acronyms stand for. They're regions of Utah. All right, and then which home type would you be most likely to choose given your household's preferences and budget? This was interesting. Majority of people still would like a single detached home. American dream. And then you can kind of see some of the views that they were asked. How would you, we need to build more roads and expand existing roads. And then which of the statements here is closest to your views that people would like to have a reliable commute time without occasional delays is the most important thing to them? All right, and then down in the dollar sign, how would you like to allocate transportation? So a lot of people, you can see there above, said roadways are still the most important to them. They would like to see some more transit infrastructure being invested in, active, bikeable, walkable communities. So there is wide support for multimodal approach to transportation there. So anyway, so then it's just the summary, just saying how they're gonna kind of use this in their travel demand models. And so just want to share that little bit of information with our community and you as a council. We often are looking at different projects and proposals and how we can tie into trends and how people live and work and want their community to be. So that's all I had for you. And then we'll move on to the next item on our agenda. So this is item number 3, if I don't have any other announcements from council other than your regular reports, which we'll get to later. Okay, seeing none, we'll go to item number 3. This is our open session for public comment. And I think we have a couple people here. So anything that's not on the agenda tonight, please state your name and we'd love to hear from you for a brief moment.
Okay. Holly Sweeten, and I am running for House District 58. So I wanted to come and introduce myself. And just watching this right here, I attend MAG meeting already every month. And so this is second time go round for me. As you may know, I work for Congressman Burgess Owens and have done so for the past 4 years. And so I work in Salt Lake, Utah, San Pete, and Juab counties. So everything from ranching and farming to small business, to public lands, to Utah Lake. Congressman Owens is actually, his jurisdiction or oversight is all of Utah Lake, which is really interesting. So we meet with not only Utah Lake Authority, but we meet with all of the 6 or 7 communities that have shoreline. So they're each doing kind of their own thing, and then that umbrella as the Utah Lake Authority, we sit in on and advocate for and support because there's some federal dollars that communities can get for these projects. And so what I'd like to really tell you is that I'm out there already doing the work. For 4 years, I've been in the trenches, like I said, doing working on various issues. And I think the thing that would be most important to me as a legislator, which I already do, is working with mayors, working with city managers. I work with the commissioners already. We work with small businesses and school districts and all of the above. So in my mind, I've been doing this already, and that thing is collaborating and communicating. I have learned to do this for the past 4 years, and so I would be your liaison to the state, and I wouldn't wait for you to come to me, because I'm out in the districts already. So I want you to know that I will be absolutely available for you, and we will work together. I've already worked with Mayor Lundberg on a couple of different issues, and lots of mayors here down in Utah County. So I just want you to know that no matter how you voted, you may not, maybe you voted already and didn't vote for me, but if I win, you won't be disappointed, okay? So I just want you to know that I will be available to you, and I'm really excited to be your next representative if that happens. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
All right, anyone else that would like to make public comment, please come forward, state your name and.
My name's Monty Romer. I live 14 North, 400 East in Lindon, downtown, the roundabout. My corner has been landscaped 3 different times because you guys picked up a crayon and decided to improve my lot. You're wanting to do that again. You want to take my ground, but you're not. But the compensation, I need the compensation for it. I can't afford to keep landscaping my yard every time you pick up a crayon. I'm sick of it. I don't have the money. I don't have the funds to keep doing it.
Can we get that address again?
14 North, 400 East, Lindon.
Yeah.
My lights are gonna have to move. I gotta move a 40-foot red sequoia redwood. I've got lighting wires, sprinklers to move. It's not free. It doesn't happen just because you guys decide to. And they've already dug in my yard without a variance. Put a water meter in. It's 4 inches low. Is that a big deal? Not really, but it is to me. It doesn't look good. It doesn't. It's right here, 2 feet away from the curb. They can't put it up 4 inches. I mean, I'm not getting what I need out of this. You guys are. And I didn't move there because there was a roundabout. The landscaping has to be covered.
All right. We'll make sure our staff takes a look at that and gets
I've
followed
been-
up with
I've been
you.
deliberating with Noah, and he sent me here.
Okay. All right, thank you, Bonnie.
Maxine?
My name's Maxine Smith. I would love to sit here and talk about neat things like the Old Inn Urban Railroad or the Underground River or whatever, but I know, in Lindon, dairy, and they spelled it with an E-N. But anyhow, I know we need to get on to business. Tonight, I'd like to talk about something I've noticed in Lindon City, and I'm seeing it all over, but it's the obnoxious weeds. And if you went Geneva Road and then went Utah County Boulevard, across the tracks, the third lot, last year was covered in thistle. Nothing was done. You can't take that to green waste because John Tucker just grinds it up and those seeds will grow for, last for 40 years. But the field this year is even worse. So that obnoxious thistle is really taking over. And it's even on Lindon's side where you want your sidewalk for those poor farmers that's trying to grow a crop. And I know that I've been here, and the fire marshal has been at my property on the west side with Lundquist, and he was there in 22 and 23, and not one thing has ever been done with his property, never been cleared since 2014. This year, the grass is over 3 foot tall, more like 4, and the thistle, he's let it grow until it's just covering and it's standing up. My property sits above, his sits below, and it's totally covered, and it's in blossom, and the wind is blowing from the west to the east. my property would totally be covered with thistle. And for you guys, it is agriculture and it's fields. This is a fire hazard that hasn't been addressed, and it's going to be worse this year with Lindquist and those yards. I'm asking that something be done, because the city keeps saying they're working with him, but nothing's been done, and it goes on and on. And I ask every one of you, if I've been to the council for years, about the development of 280 West, 200 South, the road that's been put in. When he put this in, he took the piece of property, divided it into 4. He took our right-of-way and put it in for his benefit, not caring that houses do not have the required setback for the ordinances from a public road or taken away backyards. If you'll drive down this road and notice there's only curb and gutter on his side of the property, and it's been there for 31 years. Today, a truck and trailer went down to the cul-de-sac to try to turn around, and it really had a hard time and just barely missed my corner post. I've actually tried to turn around with a trailer and a truck, and I had to unhook because this cul-de-sac has never been built according to ordinances when the development come in. And again, I've asking since he put the development in 93, build a home. A year and some months later, I built. And the city said, you have to pay curb gutter and sidewalk. Okay? How many years has it been? Over 27 years? More like over 30. But anyhow, you have never put my curb gutter and sidewalk in. You've had the money, you've spent it. I don't know about you, but my Visa card for a cash advance just come 33.9%.
So Maxine, I know staff has visited with you on that, and it would
And
have
I'm
to
getting
take,
nowhere.
it would have to take out a lot of things that you've put up, fence and your mailbox and cement work
And
and
that's
things like
fine.
that.
But I'm in the process of having to sell, and that's curb appeal. And I've paid for it, and I don't want a new property owner to have to come in and say it was paid for in 95. Please address and look at that development. You can't get things turned around.
Are you
And
talking about your personal cul-de-sac there?
it's not mine, it's Joe Martell's.
Where you live?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know this is something, but that as I visited on Mother's Day, I had personal property destroyed. I called the officer to have it documented, and he said to take a copy of the deed and that to the city on Monday. Well, Mr. Hess wasn't here, so I left it with Mike, and he said the city wouldn't get involved. Why do we have a police department? Why do you give some people on that right-of-way access, and you let them destroy my property and I can't get anything done? So my 2 questions are, will you address the sidewalk, Lundquist, and why can't I have any police?
I don't know what your particular situation is. Of course, I know staff is always willing to work with you and look into things. Sometimes it's a civil matter, and it's just, that's the
Well, it
legality of
isn't
it.
when you created the problem of increasing the traffic on a right-of-way. That it was, and actually, my part off of my property was in a warranty deed. So if you'd like more information,
Okay.
I would love to have peace at home. And
On
I
Geneva,
thank
you mentioned Geneva at the beginning. I did see Union Pacific Railroad had their tractors out
But I'm
doing the
talking-
weed abatement.
I'm
on their
talking
portion.
about the third property as you go toward the west. That whole, it's like a 5-acre piece. It used to be where they had sod come in, topsoil or something, but the obnoxious weed is taking over. And I hate to see my fields covered because Lundquist has never met any cleanup in 10 years. Thank you, but please come and see that road and why the cul-de-sac was never met the city ordinances for development. Thank you.
All right. We've taken notes. All right, is there any other public comment at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our item number 4, our council reports. And whichever end wants to
I'll give a
start,
quick
go for it.
update. I just have one update from our police department. Chief has actually stepped away and is out on dealing with some of this inclement weather. A couple of our sister cities have some emergencies. Sounds like we might have a downed power pole. Quite the storm. Chief gave me a report of some really great things that our PD is involved with. But there's one story I wanted to share. A citizen recently called about ducks that had fallen in a storm drain. And our officers, Officer Sampson in particular, responded, removed the drain cover, and retrieved the ducks. And so just out doing good deeds. There are a lot of hard things that our PD deals with as well. And so nice to hear a story like that where they're just able to engage with citizens and provide some happiness in this world, because it's not, a lot of the time they are dealing with some really hard things. So that's all I have to report.
All right, thank you, Jake.
I do not have anything tonight, Mayor.
All right, Cole.
One item that covers the Centennial and Historical Commission. You all got an email to beta test the scavenger hunt. If you haven't had a chance yet to just look at the email, and you can use the QR code or download the app, and it's really neat. There's locations throughout this city, and each are a little different, and some require a guess or try to get the answers to the question. Others, they'll have a QR code that you need to find to take a picture, and a lot of really great prizes. Businesses have stepped up. It'll be through the month of July. People will have an opportunity to do the scavenger hunt and accrue points so they can increase their chances of winning a prize. So it's the biggest thing for coming up.
Wonderful. All right, Lincoln.
What's with you guys not being very talkative tonight? You're killing me. I'll make up for it. A few months ago, Adam sent out email about random drug testing that city employees had to take, and council, we don't have to do those. But I met with him and I said, sign me up. And today I got my random drug test, and it was an interesting experience.
Failed the Mountain Dew test.
Yeah, she gave me the results right after. She said, but you passed everything, but there is a lot of Mountain Dew ingredients that I'm seeing. But it was interesting because I had a lot to do, and suddenly that came in, and there's a deadline 5 o'clock, right? Tanya actually said, but you can wait until Friday. But I thought, no, I want to experience exactly what they're experiencing. And so I imagined myself as a city employee trying to take care of a problem or something, and now, okay, you've got to go get a drug test, and you've got to go pretty quick. But kudos to our staff. It's just across the street here. I left my house like at 1:10 and at 1:25, so 15 minutes in commute time, and walking out, I was all done and passed, and she was very professional, very good. Our staff's done a great job. The email that Tanya sent me was very clear, concise, highlighted, bold, and underlined. So, I think it's a great thing that our staff's done. The drug testing is important. We want to make sure our employees are safe with each other and everything, and with citizens' work and everything else. To Adam and John, thank you so much for the monitors. To a vision impaired person, this is so much nicer that I can put on my reading glasses and see exactly what's going on up there and read it and make it out. I sent John and Adam both thank yous, but want to say thank you again. Attended the summer kickoff, made me feel like a kid again. I was immersed in suds. I couldn't even see outside of the suds. It was wonderful. I got my free shaved ice, and kudos to Parks and Rec for putting on a great event. Loved it. Planning Commission, there's a sports facility that's going to be going in off of 700 North, and in order to help their their business. They've asked if they can have part of that as a warehouse. I think that'll be coming up to city council. I'm not sure, does that come up to city council after their?
Yes.
Okay, it was continued because we were meeting, you know, public meeting, open public meeting announcements. But all of the planning commission was very much in favor because the back of it is, kind of blocks the ACE, is it ACE Recycling? So
Transfer station.
we have a nice facade. That's in Pleasant Grove, so it'll end up being a nice facade there. So, and then the last item is we only have one council meeting in July, and that's on July 15th. And I will be out of town. I don't know if others are going to be out of town.
As will I.
So we're down 2.
Okay, we need the other 3 to have a quorum.
That was July
15th.
15th, isn't it?
I think we actually
I had written down.
It is.
Okay,
All
so
right, I'm here. And everyone else check your calendars. Van had to step out for a minute. We can double check with him.
request a double check on that.
If there is, if we're a quorum short, I could be online.
You could dial in?
Yeah, I could dial in, but
All right, we'll work it out. We can send an internal memo on that and follow up then. All right, anything else there?
thanks.
All right, Shawnee Rasmussen, who runs our rodeo events, she just wanted to let everyone know there's they call it the annual play day. It's where people bring their horses and they have a whole bunch of fun, little cute things for the kids. They have the barrel racing, the pole racing, and a bunch of things. So that's going to be at the rodeo arena coming up the July, sorry, I have to get my date here, 6th at the rodeo. And so just heads up on that. Yeah, there's a lot going on right now, a lot percolating. I'm going to be meeting Friday, just heads up to council, with Representative Val Peterson and the trustees of UVU and some of our staff, Heath and Mike, to talk about our wildlife research center property with the Geneva Property Resort there. So I hope things are coming together. Congressman Curtis is going to go ask for a federal earmark. It's number 1 on his priorities now for funding this next session in the fall. And so just for those that are getting up to speed on this, so we have some property by the lake right next to our harbor. We have the trail. There's a lot of cool stuff happening, getting funding and stakeholders coming together to connect the trail around the lake from Vineyard, Lindon, all the way up to the American Fork Boat Harbor. And then on our property, we'll have the conservation park. We're still working out those agreements and getting funding. We need about 20 to 25 million. And this research center will be harken back to our historical roots of the Geneva Resort from pioneer times and have those elements in the architecture and some of the programming. And then we'll also have like a wildlife center for kids to come for field trips and learn about the ecology and the animals and plants there at the lake and the wetlands and the trails into the engineered restored wetlands there in the TSSD part of the trail. A whole bunch of cool things. UVU and SUU will have applied research, upstairs laboratories. It's all going to be, and so this is seen as a federally potentially significant site for the ecology of Utah Lake to keep restoring that. There's a lot of research and effort always going on to help with the invasive species as well of plants and animals and carp and things like that and restoring the June. So there's a ton of things all around it wrapped up. So it's really exciting, has a lot of momentum. So hopefully we'll get that funded through the federal and then the state in our next legislative session next year. And then that we can get that built and going on. So we're working on all those agreements, bringing all the stakeholders together for that vision.
So
To
it's
unfold.
possible to have something in a couple of years?
I think hopefully so, yeah.
That would be great.
We'll see. We're kind of ironing it out at this point, but it's an exciting project, and it'll be it'll be wonderful as well for our heritage trail to connect from the mountain out to the lake as well, and then have that trail around the lake. So lots of fun stuff. So I'll keep you posted on how that's going, because eventually we have to bring it back to you, whatever understandings or agreements are, needing to be codified with that property as a public amenity. It'll be up to you legislatively, to approve how that all structures out, so. But it's looking good. UVU, is all on board with it. President Tamina everyone's really excited about it, so just an update on that, and we'll keep you posted. All right, we'll now move on to our administrator's report here from Mr. Cowie.
Just FYI, on our next meetings then, July 15th and August 19th, we've typically just had one meeting in those months in prior years. And then Cole, we've got you down for that newsletter. You okay? All right. Center Street, as far as the construction's ongoing, it's a mess. I don't know how else to put it. It's complicated. There's a lot going on. We've tried to notice residents we held a public open house a month and a half or 2 months ago, and we felt like we had a good turnout. We've heard a lot of people now have been calling saying they were never notified, which they received letters from us, but they never came. And so we did record that open house, and so it's on YouTube. If you have anybody ask, they can go rewatch that on YouTube. We've sent out letters, door hangers, other notices. We put it on social media. We've had anyone that we have to acquire right of way. Our city engineer, as was mentioned tonight, has been trying to acquire that. So we're making personal contacts in a lot of residences, but we'll talk more about that in our closed session with what we're doing with some of those negotiations. Just as an FYI, I don't know if any of you have heard on this. Let me pull up a map here really quick. So we had Canal Drive was completed, re-asphalted recently, and the 230 North cul-de-sac, this one right here, was completely rebuilt. Had a couple spots that had settled, and then another one that looked like it wasn't gonna last. And so the contractor, Geneva Rock, and the city ended up deciding that whole thing needed to be ripped out. So that was all removed, and the residents are having their street rebuilt again. And so this is one where you may hear from homeowners who are at their wits' end. We understand, but we want to get a good product that will last them a long time. And so.
So this recent repaving has now been ripped out as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So it just got repaved 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah, 4 weeks ago maybe. So, so just a heads up if you hear from any of these residents on 230 North. Let's see, and then we did have, just as an FYI, we have a meeting set up to talk with UDOT coming up. We've talked several times about this future traffic signal on 200 North, crossing there at the bottom of the hill. UDOT had given us a preliminary number. Typically, cities are responsible to pay for any improvements on the side streets that aren't part of the UDOT right-of-way. They gave us an estimate on some of those improvements that was hundreds of thousands, a lot more than we expected. And so we're gonna meet with them and talk about that next week. We may have to bring this back to you for a decision of, is this something that's worth that much money? So we'll just keep you informed on that as it comes ahead. And then also just an FYI with traffic signals, this signal out here on 2000 West, I think that's supposed to be lit either this week or first part of next. And so just as an FYI. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you very much. All right, so we're on item number 6 here of the agenda. This is the approval of the minutes from June 3rd and June 10th. So council, if you had a moment to review those, any additions or changes, please let our recorder know, and then I'd entertain a motion once you've made sure we're all clear.
They look good to me, but I wasn't here at one of the meetings, so I defer to my other council members if they feel confident in what was portrayed there.
I'm happy to make a motion to approve the council minutes from June 3rd, 2024 and June 10th, 2024.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Jacobs, seconded by Councilmember Stewart. Any further discussion? All right, we'll bring it to the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Thank you very much. All right, then we're on, there's no consent agenda items here, so we're on to item number 8 of the agenda. This is a review and action for a roadway name. So we have some residents that would love to have a roadway name. We would invite you to come forward here, and then we'll have a brief little introduction by Mr. Cowie first, and then we'll look forward to hearing from you.
So these gentlemen came to you in an open session here a few weeks ago, and appreciate them coming back to follow up with their request. Just as an FYI, this is, as a reminder, a request to rename 850 East, or add the name to 850 East of Temple Lane. And they were looking at some taller signage, which they've got included in your packet there with some examples of some of their preferences. This is just one street sign that would have to be updated. Given our sign costs and labor, this would cost the city about $120. And so what we included in the staff report, this is a photo of 900 East and portions of 835 and 140 were renamed and added Temple View Drive at the bottom of that sign. And then gave you some examples of what some of those looked like when that was done. And so included in your packet, as I mentioned, was this request, 850 East, that they presented at our last meeting. The sign is right there on the corner where the green dot is located. And their preference would be to have a taller sign, which we've done in some neighborhoods and is feasible, to better identify the wording and numbers. So
Is there a cost difference between the taller sign and the shorter one?
I'm sure there is, but I don't know what that is. So I would think that's pretty minimal.
The 120 is the shorter one, the standard shorter
That
one?
would be our standard, yeah.
All right. Well, any further updates from what you presented before?
The only update is that the council or the committee asked us to make sure that we checked with the rest of the residents. There's 10 in total. So we have personally met with every one of the households and made sure that they were aware of it, made sure that they understood it, and we have pretty much overwhelming type of support. So.
Okay. Sounds like when there was a movement to rename above you, the Temple View Drive, it was very positive as well. So Temple View Drive and Temple View Lane, your lane goes right into the Temple.
Just Temple Lane.
And we wanted to
Lane. No, Temple View.
but it'd be a little confusing.
Long.
So you are the ones that put the blue and the red ribbons on there?
We did.
And everybody loved the bigger one? I mean, what was that discussion like? Are they good either way?
So, I mean, everyone liked the idea of it, making sure that it was easier to see. It's one sign, so they all knew that the cost would be minimal and that, there's enough room on that particular stop sign, to be able to make sure it was there. So we want to make sure people can see whenever there's fog out.
I think it's helpful to have the numbers larger.
And the Lindon is larger too.
Yes.
That's good. Our branding. So great. Well, this is a review and action for the council to consider. And council, do you have any other questions for Kevin and James here?
So the last time you presented, there was only one resident you hadn't spoken to, and you've spoken with them. It sounds like there's probably a range of okay with it. Did you have any against it?
No, there was none against it. There was, the only two comments that weren't like, hey, I've signed it. I have their signatures, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for the rest of them to sign. But one was, I don't like just having a name only.
Sure.
Because it makes it difficult for me to know where it is.
Yeah.
So as long as the number was there also, which it is, no problem.
Great.
And then the last one was like, are we just kind of like bragging or something? Do we really need to call this out?
Oh, sure.
It was that type of a
Well, your
thought and
neighbors
comment.
above you thought it was great.
Yeah, they did. And so we're just trying to you know, we're a little below them, but we're trying to elevate to the neighbors above us.
Keep up with Stevie hat.
Thanks
He
for
was
that
the-
due
He was
diligence.
the motivation behind that one. All right.
I like the bigger one. It is nice to see the address. The ones that were done on 900 East is still a burr in my britches, just because it's so small. I think the picture that's shown there, we had a resident who lives across the street come and say, "Now I heard you were renaming the streets. When's that going to happen?" Because it's not even visible that it has the Temple View Drive on it. Yeah. I wish. And there was a problem in EHAT's presentation where he didn't include the residents' feedback. But I do like the one, if the cost difference, the larger one, the blue ribbon one, if the cost difference is negligible, at $120, right, I have Temple View Drive at my corner. I would love to pay that to have mine bigger, Temple View Drive, if I could actually pay to have my corner fixed, but.
Sit over here in order to make that happen.
I'm in the same way of thinking. The one sign, the larger sign, minimal cost. I like the look of that.
Agreed.
Me too. I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we approve adding the roadway name of Temple Lane to 850 East Street, signs and maps as presented.
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Hoyt, seconded by Councilmember Stewart. Any further discussion? All right, we'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Sounds unanimous. Any opposed? Okay, sails through, flying colors. Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out for that longer opening and presentations.
All right, we're on item number 9 now. This is also a review and action, and I'd like to invite our Emergency Management Director, Kelly Johnson, to come forward.
I feel like I just got a promotion.
Yeah. She's coming up.
Coordinator.
It's great to have good neighbors. My front tree was splitting down the middle.
Oh.
A big maple, probably going to lose it, but we were able to get some straps around
Oh
it.
my gosh.
And so it's not in my living room right now. I don't know if it hit my living room.
Oh,
but-
gee.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
Oh, dang.
Oh, that's.
And then we got some straps and ratchets on it. And again, just good neighbors looking out for each other. And
Did you put a little, squeeze a little Neosporin in there to help it heal?
now we were gonna wrap a bungee cord around it.
All right.
Sorry.
I don't know if you remember that winter storm that came early a couple of years ago where we lost so many trees
Yeah.
around town. I had about half of mine crack and just split. I was listening to them crack all night long, and I had the police department come over and help me clear them out of my yard. And then my neighbors came and helped them load them up on a trailer. I'm right there with you, with all the good people who will help you out.
Did you try to see if any of those would stay that did get some splits? Did it-
A
Any
couple
hope?
of them are still alive, but they're mostly missing. It looks really
Like an
different. We
interesting
lost
shape.
one altogether, and we lost halves and large chunks of lots of others.
Dang.
It was a rough night.
There's a lot of pruning going on right now in the
Yeah,
city.
that's right. A lot of natural pruning. Okay, thanks for letting me take some time here today. So when it comes to emergency management, there are some legal things that we need to stay on top of. And with you being our policy folks, this is where it gets presented for those legal votes. So the first item that I'm going to go over is the resolution number 2024-18R. And to that degree, we actually need to change one letter in that to National Incident Management System instead of systems. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what this is. So NIMS, the National Incident Management System, is a comprehensive, nationwide, systemized, standardized, something that is used all over the country for escalating disasters and emergencies. So the language within it is this is a FEMA instilled thing. So NIMS itself, I think there's a link there, and we don't need to click on it unless you really want to, but that goes to a document that's about 300 pages long, which is why I'm not gonna review all of that, but I wanted to go over some of the primary tenets of what NIMS is. And this is actually good education for you to just kind of understand in general as a council. So there are 3 basic categories of things that NIMS covers. One of them is resource management. Basically, if you have an escalating situation, how are those resources going to be managed, and how do we make sure that everybody who might be called in is understanding the same principles? So that could be personnel, it could be equipment, it could be supplies, and you're looking at things like, okay, how do we order those? How do we track them? Where are we staging them? How are we doing reimbursement? How are we resupplying afterwards? It's all about mobilization, demobilization at the end of it, and what does that look like? So we have precedent for that everywhere, but also in Utah, including not that long ago here with the range fire. So as I was involved in that one, because that involved Lindon, I got to watch how they escalated from, okay, this is a local event, to now we've brought the county in, to now the county isn't sufficient and we need to bring in federal resources or Region 8 resources and fly in assets from other states, and manage those, make sure that they're staged, that they've got the fuel, that we're getting the water from appropriate places. Do we have pumpkins that we can put up in the Provo Canyon to dip out of, and that kind of thing. So that gives you the language and the protocols for making sure that everybody is looking at resource management with the same language, with the same principles behind it. Command and coordination is the next major category. That has to do with your incident command system. So that's your scalable, flexible, adaptable structure of having somebody in command and then being able to open that up as wide as it needs to go and then close it back down. Also, what those positions look like. Where you might be staging. So ICS, Incident Command System, do you have camps? Do you have field hubs? What does that look like? In addition to that, that's also your Emergency Operations Center, so any staff that you are using to support the incident. So that would be things like, maybe you have, let's talk about fire again. So maybe you have a fire and you need to bring in some helicopters and you have to have some sort of camp that you're staging those, but then you want to know what's going to happen tomorrow. How are we going to plan for tomorrow? Are there roads that are closed? Are there going to be access issues? What's the weather look like? Do we have personnel that are changing over? You have a whole planning section that is staffed in your Emergency Operations Center that is working to support that incident. Finance would be in the Emergency Operations Center, and this is according to our own Emergency Operations Plan, which I'll talk about for our next resolution. You would also have logistics, so that goes back to that resource management. They would be working on that in advance of what's going to be happening tomorrow. So all of that with command and control, and that would also include, you know, if you have multiple operational periods. So maybe it's not just an 8-hour or a 12-hour deal. Maybe this is taking multiple days. What does that look like and how do we plan for it? And then last is communications and information management. So that could be anything from, do we have operational security? Is this a situation where we need to make sure the information as it's flowing from one place to another, that there are certain things that are not being released because maybe it's a crime scene? And that includes training and exercising, which we do annually here in Lindon, and I work with the schools and the hospitals and things to do those kinds of things. So all of that is in communications, information management. You're talking about anything strategic, tactical, public information, or any other kind of communication support. In case adopting this makes anybody nervous, I just want to let you know, if you have not read through the emergency operations plan, we already use this language throughout the entire thing, and we've been adopting it for years. So there's really nothing that's a change. It's just that this is a more formal adoption of NIMS, and there is good reason for that, because it has to be adopted in order to be able to access certain pots of money in reimbursement. That's something that's occurring right now. From the flooding from last year, there was a disaster declared. We have a city south of us, I don't know if you're familiar, but they're trying to be reimbursed for $1.5 million of damage. And if they don't have this NIMS resolution adoption, then that's something that they can't get that reimbursement. In the past, we've used the promulgation page, which does have NIMS language already in it, to show state to say, yes, we've adopted it. And this year they came back to us and said, we'd really like you to actually adopt it. And so that's why we have this proposal for you today. Do you have any questions for me? Any concerns?
So is NIMS guidance?
NIMS is guidance.
Okay.
NIMS is a 300-page guidance.
Like a manual? That
Yeah,
tells you
it's
what
like it's a manual. So all of it is the language that goes over anything that you might need for prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery. But the point of it is that it's guidance that, when adopted by the entire nation, makes it so you can talk to everybody else with the same language.
Yeah.
So that if you're creating an incident action plan, for example, everybody knows what that looks like and how to do it. That helps the financial side of it in particular to go a lot more smoothly.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Lyndon has always been ahead of the curve when it comes to emergency management, and kudos to you for your role in that. My question is, I mean, obviously, well, not obviously for me, I will vote to adopt it, but a 300-page manual, all of that there, you alone can't be over that. How does that kind of fit in our Lyndon ecosystem here?
Well, there's a link there in case you want to read it.
I knew you were going to say that.
And
Okay.
just in case you don't want to read it, that is my specialty and that's my warehouse, and that's why we have me here, is because I am very familiar with all of that language.
Okay.
We do, as a part of that, as I said, in the communications and information management portion, sort of that third of NIMS, we use training and exercising. And so what we're always trying to do, FEMA has designated 32 core capabilities. Those are capabilities that every city, every jurisdiction, county, whatever, is working toward. Those are capabilities that say, hey, if we want to protect, prevent, mitigate, respond, and recover, we should be able to cover those 32 core capabilities. And so what I look at on a regular basis is, what of those core capabilities can we already cover? And which ones do we need to grow, and which ones we might not ever really, as a small city, have the capability to do X or Y, but what kind of relationships do we need to build with the people who can do those things so that those capabilities are still covered?
It's a bit ironic
Thank you.
that we're here in front of you, and at this very moment, Adam is texting us there's downed power lines and fires. This microburst is wreaking havoc in trees.
I've been watching all of
Our
that,
staff is out,
certainly.
like, dealing with little crises all around the community right now.
That didn't sneak by me, Mayor, that I was going to be presenting during this little windstorm. I've been watching all of the dispatch coming in, and there have been quite a few fires, and I've been really impressed. In fact, I'll just take a moment to really give a shout out to the police and fire who are responding to those. They are clearing them very, very quickly, and it's been very impressive because we have gotten call after call after call after call after call tonight of fires and downed wires and other things that may or may not be related. I mean, one thing that I think about is that despite what might be happening in towards the natural world, you also have your regular calls coming in as well. And so this is a really interesting moment to see how things can get stretched very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But they're doing a phenomenal job trying to keep up with that. I've been very impressed watching that.
So I have one question. by saying that, I wonder if I have to now actually only ask one question.
I will give you permission to ask more.
You did, I think it was NIMS training October-ish or something, September, October?
September of last year, we
Yeah.
did a particular course that was required by state for policy in particular. It was,
Right. And you invited those of us that were running at the time, and I think Steve and Cole and I attended, as
I think
well
you
as
did.
our other council members, so we all attended that training.
Mm-hmm.
I remember sitting there, and at one point you asked something about accountability and responsibility in a catastrophic event,
Mm-hmm.
and Mayor Lundberg was, she was thrown under the bus in that. And I realized at that point, oh my, if we actually get elected, I have some responsibility here.
You do.
By adopting this, I clicked on one of these links and I went to a 427-page document, and I thought, I'm not going to read that before council tonight.
Sure.
On under the
What?
bus, it was the mayor's ultimately the
Yes.
buck stops right here.
Yes, and
Whoa.
and if the buck stops there, then there's some shared, and especially if you're pro tem, right? So far, only Cole's been sucking that way. But so by adopting this is the crux of my question. By adopting this, what training, what kind of, or maybe not, maybe I can just say I have my Kelly Johnsons and my Chief Browers. that are
Love to
under
do more
control.
training. So if you're asking what is available, there's actually a lot of training out there. And really, that's the bottom line, is that when it comes to elected officials and policy, you are in control of response in a lot of ways. We all have our roles to play, but when it comes to the financial decisions, that comes back to the council. And you've seen that kind of over and over again. I don't know, I don't think any of you were involved. Let's see, I think Van and Jake, you would have been around during the range fire, and Carolyn, I don't remember if you were mayor at the time or not.
Council, perhaps, or
But
range fire. Well, we've had a few.
we have had a few. That was the one that was kind of late in the year. It was October of, was that 2 years ago now? Do you remember? It was late enough that actually most of the water that we would typically use in order to initially dip with the helicopters had already been shut off, and so we had to do some fast work.
Yeah.
Juan did a great job refilling one of the ponds, and
Yeah, that was just a couple of years ago, and they were pulling from Utah
Yeah.
Lake, and they were flying around, and that started at one
Yeah.
of the construction sites right there in East Lindon, and spread up in Provo
Spark from a
Canyon,
bulldozer, that one?
something like that.
no, it was caused by something else. But what was interesting is that Orem ended up taking the responsibility and liability for that. And so when you went to, they had briefings every morning and every evening. So I was attending those, and it was really fascinating to see all of what I'm talking about right now playing out in real time. And the financial decisions they were having to make and how quickly they were having to make them. But they used this national incident management system to work with,
As the backbone of.
as the backbone of everything that was happening. And so in the adoption of it, what it really does is open up financial possibilities for reimbursement. That's the main point of it, and I think that's something that you would probably be very interested in if we had something that escalated for Lindon in a hurry. And I am all for additional trainings. I feel like sometimes I'm like, please, somebody else learn some of the stuff that's in my brain so that we do have a little bit wider dissemination of some
Just
of the.
clone. We can just clone.
That sounds great.
We're talking about AI. We've got the best fiber Google, just get an AI robot with your brain. Okay, well, council, any other questions about adopting this resolution of the NIMS?
Let me mention super fast that this is in perpetuity. This is not something we have to look at again, unless for any reason you determine you would like to go in and rescind this as a resolution, or in the off chance some wildly new something comes out of FEMA that would say, well, we're doing away with NIMS. I don't see that as being likely, in that it's been actually used for about 50 years now.
So in your world, are there any devil's advocate arguments why this would be a con?
No.
To have?
No, and you can always go back and say, okay, we're not going to use NIMS, but there's no reason that you shouldn't. In fact, not only should you, and not only does this adoption open up funding options, but within the emergency operations plan that we've used for years now, again, there's that language is already being used throughout.
Adam and Brian, you don't have any concerns of an adoption and liabilities that it would give us?
Well, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
I move to approve resolution number 2024-18-R as presented.
All right, thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Stewart,
A second?
seconded by Councilmember Jacobs. Any further discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and call a vote on the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're done. And then that's item number 9, and then I guess we'll move on now to our emergency operations plan.
Perfect.
Portion of this is item number 10 on the agenda.
So speaking of training, this is available to all of you. This is our Lindon City Emergency Operation Plan. It can be put into effect from the Chief of Police or the City Administrator at any time, and it goes over exactly what we would do and the types of choices we'd be looking at. This document itself is a little over 100 pages. It's got a lot of pretty pictures in it and a lot of information, and it's got a lot of legal precedent in case you needed to know where some of this stuff comes from. But it's also, I've written it so that it's very, very specific to Lindon. So I would recommend, if you have not, going and actually reading this.
So this is the one that my PDF viewer says there's 437 pages.
That's correct. So the plan itself is 103 pages, and I actually separated these into piles so you could see exactly what it was. The rest of them are support annexes. So the plan itself is about 100 pages. The rest of this is support documentation. The reason that we have support annexes is because if you needed to find something very fast, it's probably here. So for example, the largest one here is Support Annex A, and it's all of our mutual aid agreements and interlocal agreements. So if when I first actually tried to put together our emergency operations plan, we didn't have all of these in one place. In fact, I was finding mutual aid agreements where we only had half of the mutual aid agreement, like pages 1, 3, 5, and 7. So something went wrong, something went awry as it was getting copied. So now all of those things are in one place. If you had any reason that you needed to access that, to look at any of the legal information. But the rest of them, Support Annex B is all of our maps. So if you wanted to look very swiftly at a fire map or at, there's earthquake-related maps, there's all kinds of maps in here. I love maps, that's why we have a nice Annex B. But the rest of these, all the way through Annex T, have all kinds of information that might be useful to you. Let's say that you needed to do an evacuation. That is Annex E, so that you can remember it. And it has the document that the mayor would fill out. And it also has the legal precedent right with it, so you can see how to, so it's got a checklist, so you know how to fill it out, and then it's got the legal information so that you know exactly how that works. So evacuations, disaster declarations, school protocols. I don't know if you're all aware that all of the schools use the same I Love You Guys protocols for lockdowns and other types of things. And so if you wanted to have that information or look at like the reunification cards that are provided through I Love You Guys, all of that is in there. So if you had and it also has bomb threat procedure things. So it's got, all of these annexes are to support any incident that we might, that we could have here in Lindon.
And do you have additional appendices that you anticipate would be supplementing this ongoing?
Not necessarily, but we could by request. So sometimes you might have an incident-specific annex where you would look at something like let's really look at earthquake. Instead of just using the emergency operations plan, what if there was earthquake? Then what? Those can get, talk about hefty, that can be in an emergency operations plan on its own, which is why I went more towards the support annexes versus the incident-specific ones. But there are options if we felt that something was missing. I did, here you got to see what I've added for this year. It's actually not that much. The biggest, there's some language change, and then the mutual aid and interlocal agreements, there were quite a few things that were added there, just some updates to most other things. And then two changes that are not reflected. One was that Adam recommended that I go through and check to see if there was any lindoncity.org that I might have missed moving to lindon.gov, and there was one. So that has now been changed but is not reflected in this document. And then there was one other change that I would like to recommend as a future change when it gets adopted, and that's that one of the maps is incorrect. There was the Lindon Central Stake has a change of ward boundaries, and I'd like to update the map to reflect that, but it's not that, it doesn't look that way currently. So I would go in after the fact and fix that one. Most of the other things are small language changes and just updates that needed to happen. Any questions?
Is this all available in Kindle?
No. However, I believe that it is in the shared drive. And I wanted to let you know, so we have a paper copy that is always in the police department. We'll have 2 paper copies there. But if anyone else would like a paper, I'm a paper person, despite the environment, sorry. I like to be able to flip through pages. I will read things online quite a lot. But if you would prefer to have a paper copy, I'd be happy to get you one.
I read through all the changes, and I understood everything perfectly. Not. But I did note the Annex H employee contact information. Pages with specific names of employees were removed. Is that just so that you don't have to update it as people change their roles?
That was a big reason why, yeah. And because we typically only use that internally, and they actually manage a separate document where we've got pictures and people's names and all of that, and so it seemed superfluous. It still has, on Annex H, it still has just the list of if you wanted to call a department, it's got the department numbers in there in case you needed them. But I decided to simplify that one.
Great.
Was there anything that you did really not understand that you'd like me to review?
Oh, I just didn't necessarily know the significance of things and why one would want it in there, why one wouldn't. I trust you, and so I'm good. So no, I'm good.
Okay.
It's a great thing to have. Hope we never have to use it.
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
It's one of those scenarios. I'm comfortable with it. And Mayor, if I could, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-19-R with the amendments to the website of .gov and the map change that she suggested. Would be my motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hoyt, seconded by Councilmember Broderick with the amendments. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it is unanimous.
Very much. If you would all mark your calendars, September 16th is our next Lindon City drill. And per usual, we will be doing a short training that evening for council and department heads. So if you can make it, I would very much appreciate it.
As always, we so appreciate your professionalism and your expertise and putting us in such a good shape, and you're a resource for far beyond Lindon, so thank
that's
you
the
so much.
same as a Lindon City
Yeah,
Council?
we have our Lynn Council meeting that night, too.
Oh,
To look at that.
Perfect.
We're already here. It'll be great.
short
That's a
agenda.
point.
Well, add it to the agenda. It'll be awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, council, that brings us to item number 11 on the agenda, where we're going to go into a closed session to discuss a potential purchase or sale of real property or pending or possible litigation per the Utah Code. So I would entertain a motion to go into the closed session and end our public meeting here.
Motion to enter a closed session.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Jacobs, seconded by Councilmember Hoyt. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Roll call.
We'll do the roll call, and then we'll go ahead and let people vacate for a minute. Now, quick, council, does anyone need to take a bathroom break? Okay, let's do a really quick 3 minute. Well, let's do the roll call, I guess. Well, or should we just do the roll call when we come back?
Either way, Mayor, works.
Just do your quick break. We'll come back, 3 minutes. Get the doors secured. Redo the recording.
We say aye, then
Okay.
go to closed session, and then we do a roll call.
Then we could do a roll
You
call.
said that so fast, like, I thought you were saying, no, we don't do an aye yet. No, yeah, we do. So, tree, wow.
Let's wait till they do the roll call. I've heard about this basket. I've never really looked at it.
Straps on it right now. It would have been down.
So the traps are really just to allow you to address it at the
To
right.
control things a little bit. I'll probably leave it there for a little bit. You take the straps off in the next wind that comes. It has really been blown.
It's the worst I've ever seen in Lindon. All the trees.
Oh, yeah, it's.
This is like, up north, what they deal with every few years, it seems like Ogden areas.
That was actually one of the big ones where they had to bring in a lot of mutual aid for that windstorm up there, yeah.
Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you.
That drops down.
Yeah, they just don't like each other, so. And that one, we can't see from the street, I don't think.
Yeah, it does have to.
That tree, Adam, doesn't look like it even has any
I
roots.
believe that's the language as well. So.
That tree doesn't look like it even has any roots.
FYI, the wasn't matched outside, it's now inside because it was blowing away.
Yeah, the reason I say that is with Friars, we'll put up a fence that where we can see it from the road, but you could definitely see it from the neighboring properties. And so I think that's the language.
Did they go in a closed session?
Not yet.
So I guess
They
we're
made
still
the motion,
recording.
we're gonna wait for the roll call vote when everybody comes back.
Monitors are even better than I told. I'm not kidding. I mean, in my mind, it was just one big monitor there, but those, it's like I can put on my readers and I can see everything. Oh.
Well, hopefully, they push up against the wall, so
Yeah.
you guys are sitting on it before.
Yeah, we should, and we'll just move the tables a little farther up, so. I,
This is the lower parking lot.
yeah, well, and John did tell me there were like, she did a great job.
He's driving around the rest of the city.
Some of the stories, she said,
He is going around the rest of the park to make sure we can.
yeah, coming up with other pieces. Wow, she did spectacular. She did so good. It was great. Oh, good.
Worry about your house? I just my son, how are our trees? I was fancy that I was like, how are our trees?
I know. Speaking of.
Two branches, this thing broken off, two different trees.
Ooh.
Yeah, nobody
I made it
catches
like a
it.
priority, like every year I will pay to have arborists come down and
Play today?
cut it back, because like, you want to have depth. And I'm like,
Could've used,
one thing, and I don't really want to put it in my house, so I will do that.
both of us.
I don't remember if it was Kevin or Al. Maybe it was Al.
Yeah, because they say like.
And he said, I don't even know. You're not going? Has Al been there?
Yeah, I was there. Otto's back, he's been in Europe for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I guess I
I
should.
live just, you know where Canterbury is? So I live just on the farm side. I really live like a rock star. I always joke that I can throw a rock in my house. You can't throw that far.
Just chuckling back that it was second base.
If I had one of those fetch things.
When it would take a little stop lane, the kids would run.
But yeah.
And then grab it, because you could go at full speed and then grab it. And you would never go off second base.
Keep note of what's.
And it's still a little bit on it. I mean, it's still like,
Fast breaks, remember? Yeah, I gotta get more of those.
Was there jerky?
There was.
Lincoln took it.
Lincoln took the jerky?
I gotta show up for the meeting on time.
I know, get the good stuff. There was one, and somebody
Well,
took
I
it.
took the only two
I'm
fast
gonna,
breaks, so.
double down on it. That's all right.
Feeling it not get dinner.
Oh, yeah, these are a lot better than.
Can I take anybody's garbage here?
Do you have one of these?
Yeah, we strapped it up.
We
Strapped the tree up.
Yeah, and did you see?
Yeah.
Up there, we had them down?
Last thing we need is.
It would be down now, but
That is
we
such
got
a
about
beautiful
4
tree.
straps around it and ratcheted it in.
Gosh.
I put sandbags on,
Hi.
but it really had.
What's that?
See that one?
It doesn't even have any roots, it looks like. I mean, it looks like it's just,
Yeah, it looks like it just toppled over.
You know, try getting you a chainsaw.
Oh, yeah.
You know what?
That's what I feel like. Yeah, these are good.
That's right, get our snacks.
I mean, we've all mentioned it, but I'm gonna mention it again. These monitors are really,
Yeah. Yeah.
How
We
great
keep
are
wanting
Thank
to turn
Lincoln,
back
because
though.
that was his idea, his request, so.
Thank you, Lincoln.
I keep looking back. it's
eyesight's
just a
so
habit.
poor, couldn't see that.
And you were elected.
Yeah. You can count that on your campaign for next time.
Yeah.
I got
But
mine.
Adam and John are the ones that make it happen. I was just the complainer.
The branches went just on each side of that.
Is that your car?
No,
Oh.
I don't know whose it is, but
What does the car look like?
it's a white car. Is it yours?
Is it mine?
The tree went down and just went over the top of it and missed it. Oh my gosh.
See, that's why,